Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing module 5, that is visual narratives advertisements. We will be looking into the inception of advertisements in India from the pre-British time. We will also look into how the dynamics of advertisement has shaped the economy and the inclusion of politics along with it. Now, advertisement being a very major chunk of what we call as mass media or mass production, it relates to the larger idea or the study of popular culture. Now, as we know that what mass production means, and this mass production is directly linked to advertisements. And so today we will start by discussing Indianness and everyday nationalism. Now, everyday nationalism is a theoretical concept. We will not be looking into the theoretical concept of everyday nationalism, but we will take it in context as to the usage of the products or how it has been marketed and being used in everyday by the people of India. Now, Indianness from Raj to Swaraj. In the pre-independence era, we basically see that it has started from print media. So, there were newspapers or pamphlets or weeklies which basically in the pre-independence era used to publish the advertisements, and during that time we mostly saw like clothing, medicine and services being part and parcel of the product that were advertised, and it was just very simple, put in words kind of advertisements. But if we want to trace the very genealogy of Indian advertisement, we need to go to the streets where we saw the vendors using their mouth or word of mouth to kind of demonstrate their product in the streets to the people who are passing by, so that they can attract customers. And then we see them calling out people by using some jingles which were very attractive, and people were lured to go and buy the product. That was a marketing strategy initially used by these local vendors. And then we also see hand painted signs. So these hand painted signs usually were drawn on the walls of either streets or even houses of people, and those were the early signs of advertisement in India. Now this idea of Indianness is very much rooted in the idea of Swadeshi movement. We saw how it has come up in cinema. The word Indian cinema is actually linked to Swadeshi movement, and therefore it got its name of Indian cinema. Similarly, the Swadeshi movement in India is popularly linked to the advertisements, early advertisements in India, basically made goods and boycotted British made products. So we know what Swadeshi movement was, started by Gandhi, telling people to boycott the foreign goods and endorse handmade items, khadi, etc. James Augustus Hickey started the Bengal Gazette. Now, we will also look into the idea of vernacular versus the English speaking audience and how it kind of creates a class barrier, one can say, again bringing in the idea of popular culture, where they talk about the idea of the low culture and high culture. So basically here we see the class distinction between the language that is spoken, that is English, by the elites and the Britishers, and vernacular, which is spoken by the local people. Now basically this Bengal Gazette advertised clothing, books and medicine initially when it came into existence. It has also been discussed in comics, where because later on Bengal Gazette also was publishing cartoons. Now perhaps the first commercial advertisement began through B. Dataram and Company in 1905, and it was only in 1920 where we see Stonarch and DJ Kemmers coming into the advertising industry. Now what is very relevant of DJ Kemmers is our very own renowned film director, filmmaker Satyajit Ray was an illustrator with DJ Kemmers before he became, significant in the cinema industry. So it was indeed a long journey for him as well. And then the very famous JWT, or the J. Walter Thomas, they brought in the professionalism in advertisement in India in around 1929. So these were the remarkable beginnings of advertising agencies or bodies that situated itself in India, through which what we see the transformation of advertisements that have taken place in India or the Indian consumer market. Now what these Swadeshi advertisements were about, or how it kind of endorsed products. So they used to use tricolor flags in the wrapping of certain products, and also khadi usage was growing because of what brought in by Mahatma Gandhi as Swadeshi movement. Now we see the attachment of emotions to the products, and this is not new. We see it very often nowadays happening, but it also happened during the British era. And one example is Vande Mataram. So Vande Mataram was written on products stating that it's a homegrown product and people should use, and it associates with the indigenous Indianness of people. Another very important oil, which was Sugandhi Kasaranjan oil, which was promoted by Nagendranath Sengupta in 1908, became a product of Swadeshi, as it is called. It was sold as an indigenous product. Now wherever you write indigenous, nowadays we see it's like organic, more of organic, or eco-friendly is the new cool as we understand in advertisement. Similarly, it was indigenous, the word indigenous attached to such products. And Indian medicine and railways were the products that were sold. Though we know that Indian Railways was not exactly built by Indians, it was brought in by Britishers, but it was endorsed in a way that it is for the Indian people. Therefore, the kind of advertisements that revolved around it were quite Indian, and then we situate it in what we call as Indianness or everyday nationalism. Now, when we talk about Kaila's brain tonic, it was a medicine, and it said that it will stimulate your brain, it will increase your brain power to 100%. So that was their tagline to advertise. Moving on, we see few other examples of Swadeshi and how cloth and soap became very significant products of Swadeshi. So the advertisement was for Swadeshi clothes, and slogan was wear Swadeshi, wear pride. So in a way, if you are not wearing Swadeshi, you are not owning it and you are not Indian enough, maybe that was the meaning that was directed. Even the image was of an Indian family dressed in traditional attire. So all the family members in traditional attire wearing khadi, and the message was support Indian weavers and craftsmen. Now two things are happening here. They are saying that through endorsing in homegrown fabrics like khadi, you are you are wearing the pride of India, and also you are helping for self-reliance, for communitarianism, or also for entrepreneurship. So people will become self-reliant if you start wearing the textiles, the fabrics that are homegrown. And that is how the advertisement around Swadeshi came into existence. Another very significant example is Swadeshi soap. So this Swadeshi soap's slogan ran as pure, clean and Swadeshi. Now later on we will see that how soaps and detergents were associated with the larger aspect of religion, and then how religion got intermingled or intertwined with politics. Now the image was a soap bar with the Indian flag colors and a spinning wheel, charkha, symbol of it. Now charkha can be seen in two ways. One, that how Gandhi propagated it, and in the other way, like, when you spin something very, in a speeding way, okay, like you are spinning something in a speeding way, that also kind of signifies cleaning something, which the idea was situated in a later advertisement called wheel. So wheel was a detergent where we see a wheel which is spinning, and as it spins using the products that it is made of, as it claims, it was talking about or relating to cleanliness, and how cleanliness is associated with rituals situated in religion and tradition, and there again how religion was associated with politics further. Now the message said, experience the purity of Swadeshi. So again the idea of purity and cleanliness is situated in the Indian context in the larger paradigm of what we call as culture or tradition. Now keep yourself clean with a product that's truly Indian. So how you are going to purify yourself, how you are going to keep yourself clean, it is only through an Indian product, similar to how this in printing, when we were reading how this printer used to use Ganga Jal in order to sell the Gita, the kind of marketing strategy that is used. Similar to that, this marketing strategy, it is playing with your emotions, that what can clean you, it's only something which is truly Indian can clean you. Now, according to a study done on Hindi Aaj Daily, the papers that were, the versions that were taken into consideration was between 1935 to 1938. So between these years, there was a study conducted by Kaushik, and it was, reading the daily advertisements that came up in that particular newspaper, and this Aaj Daily is comes from UP. So it is before the conceptualization of the state, but it is in that area where this particular newspaper was famous. Now on January 4th, an advertisement came up in this Aaj Daily, and it said, Indian Postal Telegraph Department has reduced the prices. Now, which gave the readers information about reduction in telephone rates since September 1934. So, they strategically said that they showed the rate chart, published the rate chart as well, and said that this was what was before and this is what is now. So, you can see or make out the differences on your own. Along with that, as a part of the strategy, they said that if you do not have, a telephone, if you do not have, you do not use this service, this Indian Postal Service, you will lose on opportunities. So maybe, you want to apply to a place, or you want to send something to someone, and you will lose that opportunity. So this is how they advertise their department. Now advertisements of soaps like Lux, Sunlight and Godrej also came during this era, and they quite popularly advertised Indian beauty through Lux soap. It's not as Indianized as Swadeshi, but they were kind of, talking about the Indian beauties. Most of the famous actresses of the time were debuting with Lux in advertisement. And then there was Sunlight and also Godrej. Now Godrej, again we'll see how it in a way Indianizes through the culture, through Indian culture, what they call as. And then there were some medicines that came up, again very indigenous, and the names also suggest that they are very indigenous, and these they were actually tonics, okay, and names goes as follows: Santogen, Kalzana, Mrit Sanjeevani, Sudha, Sundari Sathi, Gonokin and Recto Serpo P. So most of them are very indigenous kind of names except a few, and then again they are associating with it with how indigenous the tonics were. Now coming again back to railway, how they advertised. So it is very interesting to note how railway advertised itself. So they said that it is a cheap and convenient way to travel with scenic beauty. But that was not it. So in this study by Kaushik, he gives a detailed explanation to the kind of advertisement that came in Aaj Daily. So he says, traveling through train was presented as an enlightened and liberating experience. Great figures from distant as well as recent past, from Buddha to Swami Vivekanand, and also including Shankaracharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and their life in wandering and their search for the truth, but altogether excluding Sufi saints who also have contributed to this great wandering tradition, got incorporated in the advertising strategy of Indian Railways. Now, we mark two things here, that what are the ways that they used, and the other mark that we notice is that they are significantly leaving out the Sufi saint names, as if they were not enlightened enough, or they cannot be put in the same category of these people that have been named. Now, the explanation of this particular advertisement, as Kaushik has mentioned, has excluded, but altogether in fact excluded, the Sufi saints who have also contributed in this great wandering tradition. But so we see two kind of markers here. One, that the railway is associating itself with great people, enlightened people like Buddha to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then conveniently leaving out the Sufi saints. So what might be the reason? And this paper is coming out in a very Hindu dominated area, and also maybe the people who read, the larger population is Hindu. Maybe that is one of the reasons that they have conveniently removed the names of Sufi people, or have not included at all. Now, the other thing, that traveling they are equating with enlightenment, they are equating it with liberating experience. So therefore, they are associating that if you travel via railways, you will also be in a similar category as these people, because it will give you an experience of enlightenment and liberating experience at the same time. It's like wanderers are searching for truth, and so will you. So that is the kind of advertisements that came around the Indian Railways. Now, the canned rasagullas that came from Bengal, very famous, was a creation of Nobin Chandra Das, but it was only his son Krishna Chandra who did this breakthrough with this rasagulla that we see in cans nowadays. Now it can reach from Bengal to the last tip of the nation, because of this breakthrough of canning it and exporting it across the state. And then we have the 20th century advertisements of mostly foreign brands, which are like Cadbury, and then Dairy Milk, and also Pear soaps. Now, what is interesting with this Pear soap is that they came up with the Indianized version of this Pear soap. So there is a lady who is holding a child, and she almost is dressed like a goddess, and she's sitting on a lotus. So it is talking about the purity of the soap, associating it with religion again. Now, the emphasis on self-reliance were the common themes in Swadeshi advertisements during colonial rule. So the advertisements that we have just seen, it is belonging to the colonial times, pre-independence, and we mostly see Swadeshi being the dominant theme in these advertisements. Another very important inception about advertisement, which came in Aaj Daily in the year 1935 on the occasion of Diwali. So, in Diwali, they were selling sweets, and they named the sweets particularly on the leaders of India, many of them like the, the known leaders of India or the Swadeshi movement. So, one was Gandhi Gora, they named it as Gandhi Gora, dedicating it to Gandhi. And then there was Rashtriya Barfi, which is like translates to national sweet. Then we have Jawahar Laddu Sandesh after Sardar Patel, and then Madan Mohan, so after Madan Mohan Malviya. And this ad was sponsored by a shopkeeper whose shop's name was Ram Bhandar. So we see how relevant these meanings are where it is trying to situate and how they are trying to promote the product. Now, there was another very renowned medicine that was going around during the British time. It's not just during British time, even now, while traveling from train in the localities which are situated near to the railway tracks, we often see on the walls, these kind of messages or guarantee that they say for delivery of a son. So, they are saying that we will give you a guarantee that after taking this medicine, you will have a male child, and if you don't, then on some conditions we will give you cash back as well. So, the name of the medicine was also very catchy. It was called Sukh Sagar, literally meaning the sea of happiness. And this is one of this kind of ad that came up in Aaj Daily. It also tells about the kind of temperament people had about having a male child and the kind of desperation which led these people to actually endorse these kind of medicines in their daily lives. Next we have the Hindustani chai or the Bharatiya chai, sponsored by ITMEB, and the tea represented as a health drink and with no side effect. So, we see that during this period of 1935 and 1938, how tea was endorsed. It was called a health drink without any side effects. So, in one of the ads of this Hindustani chai or Bharatiya chai, again being associated with Indianness, so close to Indianness. Now, if you see at the linguistic scene of how it is called Hindustani chai or Bharatiya chai, there is a difference, right? Now, this difference was in a way promoted through these ads when they later on started replacing it with Bharatiya chai. And there's a woman who is sitting in front of a charkha wearing white khadi sari, and she is sipping tea. So again associating it with Swadeshi along with this chai being very much Indian. Now, then comes 1940s and 1950s. What kind of advertisements we saw that were Indian enough, or it can be associated with everyday nationalism, how it was promoted. So, soap in a way which is used every day can be said as as a tool of everyday nationalism. You are cleaning yourself, you're purifying yourself. So, it is doing two things, or it is happening on two levels. One, that you are promoting the indigenous brand, making people self-reliant, and on the other you are cleaning, you're purifying yourself, associating yourself with more Indian, being more Indian, and on a daily basis, since you're washing yourselves every day. And then we have the 1940s and 50s. We see that a leading Tata group was established during this period, and they in a way were leading India to what was called Sampoorn Swaraj, in a way that they were providing essential machinery and farm equipments to industries, and also developing the transport infrastructure with steel made in India by Tata Steel. So, they hinged on made in India. Okay, so this made in India title made it very Indian, and of course it is being used on a very daily basis, producing and selling to other industries that required. what World War II did is very interesting. So with World War II, India joined hands with 4 advertising companies, and these 4 advertising companies, one was Kemers, one was Stonarch, the other was Edarts, and the fourth and most significant was JWT, which is Walter Thompson, and they joined hands in order to do some sort of campaigning. And since it was the time of World War II, they came up with "Don't Spread Rumors" theme or advertisement, "Don't waste food and contribute blankets for the troops of the participating in the war." So this is something major that was done by the government post independence. Like during the time the World War II was getting over, even post, the scenario did not change quickly as we witnessed. Now the white revolution came in this phase. What we know today as Amul, or the Amul brand, the Utterly Butterly Amul, came during this time, and it was Verghese Kurian, Dr. Verghese Kurian, who came up with this Amul's witty, humorous slogans displayed on billboards across the country. So Dr. Verghese was a very significant man who started this white revolution, and then he was the one later on who kind of replicated the model in the other parts of India as well. Now this 50s advertisements had become educators, more like they will show you or they will tell you how to use a product, okay. So it was not just that what a product does, which was basically before 1940s, but more like how to use the product. Now there was a revolution which was about to start during 1940s and 50s. Swastik detergent came up with a revolutionary idea. So before that, people used to wash the clothes. They might have a tap, they might not have a tap. So they would wash it with soaps and under the tap, okay, and then they would use it in ponds and all. But they came up with a revolutionary idea, washing clothes in a bucket, and that became a trademark. So it was a swastik detergent that told people how to basically wash the clothes. Now, quite interesting that it was not swastik but Hull's Hindustan Unilever Surf that popularized the idea more, though it was started by swastik, but popularized by Hindustan Unilever Surf. And then came Dalda, though again Dalda was not Indian, but it was promoted as an Indian brand, very much Indian. So we see the ads where mothers are cooking for their kids, bringing in the idea of how mothers are so warming, or and how they are so nurturing. So the inception of the name, so in Liver's company came up with this product, and they were importing the item from the Dutch, and the Dutch company's name was called Dada. And what they did is that they they put the Liver's L between Dada, and then it became Dalda. And we hardly talk about what the product is that Dalda sells, because it itself became a product. The name itself became a product. We don't say that we are going to buy ghee or oil. We say that we are going to buy dalda, or we are going to buy Fortune is another brand of oil. So we don't say that we are going to buy Fortune, we say we are going to buy oil. But with dalda it was different. People used to say that we are going to buy dalda itself. How it became a product. Now there came Times of India, and Times of India's Illustrated Weekly. And in this Illustrated Weekly, they used to basically tell people how or which product, how to use, okay. So this what product could do got installed through Times of India. So earlier it was what is the product, what the product does, then came how to use the product, and then came what the product could do for you. Now, the people, renowned people who have been the editor of this illustrated weekly, few of them to name are Seen Mandy, A.S. Raman, Khushwant Singh, M.V. Kamath and Pritish Nandi. And then we see the radio coming in. We have not looked into All India Radio in detail or radio in detail, because we are only dealing with or we are only considering the visual narratives. So, radio does not come in that category, though it does in a way produces imagery when we hear, but it directly does not relates to visual narratives, and therefore we haven't dealt with the advertisements from radio in detail. Now, the radio advertisement sponsored the shows entirely in an era, and where there were few products except in textile. So, they were advertising products except the textile ones. The history of radio is very important. So, there was Ceylon radio in Sri Lanka, and our very renowned people used to work in Ceylon radio, one of them being Sunil Dutt. And the All India radio came after Ceylon radio. So, most of the advertisements earlier went to Ceylon radio. It was very late that India got its own All India radio station when they started with programs and they got full sponsorship. Now, how English and Hindi mixed and came up with a trend called Hinglish. There was Binny's Textile and their logo or their slogan said, Humko Binny Mangta. So, it's a mix of Hindi and English, and we see a trend coming like English, and again later on we will see more of these kind of slogans coming into existence. Now, we have the Burma Shell, which is now called Bharat Petroleum, and then we have the highlights of how Burma Shell got instilled in India. So, they came up with the slogan, in India's life and part of it. They used commitment as a tool to advertise. So, in certain levels of advertisements, there are few aspects where we see that something like commitment being used to sell their product. They are actually not telling people what are the qualities of the product, but the commitment itself becomes the most important factor in that brand. Then we have the coming of historical thread. Again, Singer is not an Indian brand, okay? It came in India in the 1940s and 50s. But why this is important is because Mahatma Gandhi knew sewing, and he got this Singer machine, and even when he was in jail, he used to sew and he used Singer machine, and therefore it is called the historical thread. And he used to shift the machine from one jail to another whenever he was taken. So, very significant in the making of Indianness or making of the Swadeshi, this historical thread. Now, we have the 60s. Now, the 60s was a time when rationing in India in a way started, and the Soviet co-op model was a success by Nehru, but we see that a lot of problems coming up in the 1960s, and along with these problems India fighting, we see the first social marketing program was launched in 1960s with the Nirodh family planning campaign. So, other than vasectomy, which was introduced by Indira Gandhi to control population, it was the Nirodh family planning campaign by the government at that time to instill population control and also safe sex to an extent. It was a period of stagnation due to Indo-Sino War. So, this Indo-Sino War has affected a lot of economies in India. In a way, it affected the cinema market, it affected the advertisement market, as we see, and many foreign companies withdrew from the market. Very important to note that there was a time where other companies were leaving. Anyways, in India, before liberalization, there were very few foreign companies, and the problem with foreign companies exiting, India could not help grow the GDP. Now, Lal Bahadur Shastri in 1965 asked Dr. Varghese Kurian to replicate the Amul model, as I mentioned before. So, that was quite significant, which was happening. Along with this, we have the Green Revolution also in the field of agriculture, significant developments that was witnessed in the 60s. But again, as it is not part of advertisement, we are not discussing it further. Now, two more significant advertisements of this age. One was India's traditional art handloom house. So, this Indian traditional art handloom house came into existence in the 1960s, and then we also see that Indira Gandhi was promoting. So, Pupul Jayakar was Indira Gandhi's friend, and Indira Gandhi started promoting this by wearing the saris, the handloom saris. And then we see in an ad, Zeenat Aman became the face of Indian traditional art handloom house. So, the Zeenat Aman has also advertised for other, brands of clothing such as Bombay Dyeing and others. But this was the significant, development also seen through Zeenat Aman, because she was seen as a beautiful actress of those times. And last, we have the Godrej Storewell ad in the 1960s, which kind of showed us again the Indian roots and Indian tradition and culture. So, in the ad, there is a bride who is just about to leave, and there is an old lady called Maji, and she says the parting words are, "Be more than a wife, be a homemaker." So, Godrej gives you that kind of responsibility, that sense of responsibility in a way, and she gives the keys, of the almirah to her, and asks her to become a homemaker, to take care of the home, not just remain as a wife. Again, if you see it in a very gendered aspect, it is always the women who are asked to take the responsibility of the house when it comes to household chores, as compared to men being the breadwinner of the family.